The autumn rain drummed against the marble floors of the Grand Imperial Hotel's lobby as Maya Richardson stepped through the revolving doors, her simple black coat dripping with moisture. She had deliberately dressed down for this unannounced visit to one of her properties: jeans, sneakers, and a modest handbag that gave no hint of the billions in her bank account. Maya owned a chain of luxury hotels across 3 continents, but she made it a point to visit each property incognito at least twice a year. It was the only way to see how her staff truly treated guests when they thought no one important was watching. The Grand Imperial was her crown jewel, a 5-star establishment in the heart of Manhattan that catered to celebrities, politicians, and business moguls. As she approached the front desk, she observed the opulent surroundings: crystal chandeliers casting warm light across imported Italian marble, fresh orchids adorning every surface, and staff members in crisp uniforms attending to well-dressed guests. "Good evening," Maya said politely to the receptionist, a young woman named Jennifer according to her name tag. "I'd like to book a room for tonight." Jennifer looked up from her computer screen, her eyes quickly scanning Maya's appearance with barely concealed disdain. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we're completely booked." Maya raised an eyebrow. She knew for a fact that the hotel kept at least 5 rooms available for walk-in VIPs at all times. "Are you sure? Perhaps you could check again?" "I said we're booked," Jennifer replied curtly, not bothering to look at her screen again. "You might try the Holiday Inn down the street." Before Maya could respond, a tall man in an expensive suit approached the desk. This was Richard Sterling, the hotel manager, a man Maya had hired 3 years ago based on his impressive credentials and stellar references. She had met him only once, briefly, during his initial interview via video call. "Is there a problem here?" Sterling asked, his voice carrying an air of authority. "This person is trying to get a room, but I've explained we're fully booked," Jennifer said, emphasizing person in a way that made Maya's jaw clench. Sterling's eyes swept over Maya with the same dismissive look as the receptionist. "Ma'am, I think you may be in the wrong establishment. This is the Grand Imperial. Our rooms start at $800 per night." "I understand the rates," Maya replied calmly. "And I can afford them." A small crowd of guests had begun to gather, sensing the tension in the air. Maya noticed several people pulling out their phones, likely to record what was becoming an increasingly uncomfortable scene. "Look," Sterling said, stepping closer to Maya, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper, "we cater to a very specific clientele here. I suggest you leave before security escorts you out." Maya felt her heart rate increase, but she maintained her composure. "I'm a paying customer requesting a room. I don't see why that should be a problem." "Because you don't belong here." Sterling suddenly exploded, his voice echoing through the lobby. Without warning, his hand shot out and struck Maya across the face with a sharp slap that echoed through the marble hall. Gasps filled the lobby as guests stopped in their tracks. Cell phone cameras captured every moment as Maya stumbled back, her hand instinctively moving to her stinging cheek. "That's what happens when people like you don't know your place," Sterling snarled, completely unaware of the dozen phones now recording his every word. Maya straightened slowly, her dark eyes blazing with a fury that made several onlookers step back. When she spoke, her voice was deadly quiet. "Did you just assault me?" "I removed a problem," Sterling replied smugly, adjusting his tie. "Security." 2 security guards approached hesitantly. Unlike their manager, they seemed uncomfortable with the situation unfolding before them. "Actually, gentlemen, you won't be needed," Maya said, reaching into her handbag. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. "Marcus? It's Maya." "Yes, I'm at the Imperial. I need you to bring the file for Richard Sterling immediately. And call the board, we're having an emergency meeting." Sterling laughed derisively. "Who are you calling? Your drug dealer?" Maya ignored him, making another call. "David? Maya Richardson." "Yes, that Maya Richardson. I need you to prepare a lawsuit for assault and battery. The incident occurred at the Grand Imperial Hotel approximately 2 minutes ago, and it's been recorded by multiple witnesses." The color began to drain from Sterling's face as he heard the name. Maya Richardson. He'd heard that name before, but where? Maya made a third call. "Janet? Please issue an immediate press release. The Grand Imperial Hotel's management has just physically assaulted a guest due to racial discrimination. Yes, I want it on every news outlet within the hour." "Wait," Sterling said, his voice suddenly uncertain. "Richardson. Maya Richardson?" Maya ended her call and looked at him with ice-cold eyes. "That's Ms. Richardson to you. Or, more accurately, that's your former employer." The lobby had gone completely silent except for the soft chime of the elevator. Out stepped Marcus Chen, Maya's personal attorney, carrying a thick folder. "Good evening, Ms. Richardson," Marcus said professionally, though his eyes flashed with anger as he noticed the red mark on her cheek. "I have Mr. Sterling's employment file here. Sterling snatched the file and opened it with trembling hands. There, on the letterhead of Richardson Hospitality Group, was his employment contract. And at the bottom, the signature of the CEO and majority owner, Maya Richardson, the billionaire. The woman who owned not just this hotel, but 47 others worldwide. The woman he had just slapped in front of a crowd of witnesses. "Oh God," Sterling whispered, his face now ash-white. "Ms. Richardson, I didn't know. I'm so sorry." "You're sorry?" Maya's voice rose for the first time, and the power in it made everyone in the lobby freeze. "You're sorry that you assaulted someone you thought was beneath you? You're sorry that you got caught being a racist, not sorry that you are one." Sterling fell to his knees in the middle of the marble floor, his expensive suit crumpling. "Please, Ms. Richardson, I have a family, a mortgage. I made a mistake." "Your mistake wasn't hitting me because you didn't recognize me," Maya said, her voice carrying to every corner of the now silent lobby. "Your mistake was thinking it was acceptable to treat anyone that way, regardless of who they are." She turned to address the crowd of guests and staff who had gathered. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize that you've had to witness this disgraceful behavior. This is not what the Grand Imperial stands for, and it's certainly not what I built this company to represent." Jennifer, the receptionist, tried to slip away quietly, but Maya's sharp eyes caught her movement. "Ms. Jennifer, isn't it? You can stop right there." The young woman froze, terror written across her face. "You're also terminated, effective immediately," Maya continued. "Your behavior tonight was equally unacceptable." Marcus stepped forward with a tablet. "Ms. Richardson, I've already drafted the termination papers for both employees. Security footage from the cameras confirms everything, and we have at least 12 independent video recordings from guests' phones." Maya nodded, then turned to the two security guards who were still standing nearby, looking mortified. "Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Sterling and Ms. Jennifer from the property. They're no longer employees here. Please." Sterling begged, still on his knees. "I'll do anything. I'll take sensitivity training. The time for training was before you put your hands on an innocent person," Maya cut him off. "Some mistakes can be forgiven, Mr. Sterling. Assault and racial discrimination are not among them." As security began to escort the fired employees out, Maya turned to address her remaining staff, who had gathered in a semicircle around the scene. "Let me be crystal clear to everyone here," she announced. "I don't care if someone walks in wearing rags or a three-piece suit. I don't care what color their skin is, what language they speak, or how much money they have in their pocket. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. Anyone who can't understand that simple concept doesn't belong working for me." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Maya continued, "I built this company on the principle that luxury hospitality means making every single person feel valued and welcome. What happened here tonight was a betrayal of everything we stand for." An older gentleman in a tuxedo stepped forward from the crowd. "Ms. Richardson? I'm James Morrison, the deputy manager. On behalf of the entire staff, I want to apologize for Mr. Sterling's actions. This doesn't represent who we are." Maya studied Morrison's face carefully. She remembered him from the employee files, 20 years in hospitality, stellar reviews, never a single complaint. "Mr. Morrison, as of right now, you're the acting general manager. We'll discuss a permanent arrangement after a proper review process." Relief flooded Morrison's features. "Thank you, Ms. Richardson. I promise you won't regret this decision." "See that I don't," Maya replied, then turned to the crowd of guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to personally apologize for disrupting your evening. The concierge will be providing vouchers for complimentary meals and services as our way of saying thank you for your patience." As the crowd began to disperse, many guests approached Maya to offer their support and admiration for how she had handled the situation. One elderly woman took Maya's hand and squeezed it gently. "That took real grace, dear," the woman said. "Most people would have simply fired them and walked away. But you made sure everyone learned something important tonight." Maya smiled genuinely for the first time since entering the hotel. "Thank you. That means a lot." Over the next hour, Maya worked with Morrison and her attorney to ensure proper procedures were followed. The police were called to file a report about the assault. HR was contacted to begin the process of finding new staff. And most importantly, Maya personally spoke with every employee on duty that night. "I want you all to understand something," she told them during an impromptu staff meeting in the hotel's conference room. "What happened tonight wasn't just wrong, it was dangerous. When employees feel empowered to discriminate and even assault guests, it creates a toxic environment that affects everyone." A young bellhop raised his hand. "Ms. Richardson, some of us, we've seen things like this before. Not as extreme, but we weren't sure how to report it." Maya's expression hardened. Tell me. For the next 30 minutes, Maya listened as several employees shared incidents of discrimination they had witnessed or experienced. By the end, she had filled 3 pages with notes and was angrier than she had been all evening. This ends now, she declared. Morrison, I want a complete review of every employee in this hotel. Anyone with a pattern of discriminatory behavior will be terminated. I also want mandatory diversity and sensitivity training for everyone, including management. Already arranging it, Ms. Richardson, Morrison replied, typing notes on his tablet. And I want an anonymous reporting system implemented immediately. Employees should feel safe reporting discrimination without fear of retaliation. As the meeting concluded, Maya finally made her way to the penthouse suite, a room she had personally designed but rarely used. As she stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights, her phone buzzed with notifications. The story had already hit social media and was trending nationwide. Videos of Sterling slapping her and her subsequent revelation had gone viral. #BillionaireJustice and #KnowYourBoss were trending on Twitter. News outlets were calling for interviews. Her personal publicist had sent 17 missed calls, but Maya wasn't thinking about the publicity. She was thinking about all the people who faced discrimination every day without the power to fight back the way she had. How many others had been treated the way Sterling and Jennifer had treated her, but couldn't afford to fight back? Her phone rang. It was her daughter, Zara, calling from college. Mom. Oh my God, I just saw the video. Are you okay? That man actually hit you. I'm fine, sweetheart, Maya said, unconsciously touching her still tender cheek. But I'm not okay with what happened. I can't believe he didn't know who you were, Zara said, anger evident in her voice. That's exactly the point, baby, Maya replied softly. It shouldn't matter who I am. He shouldn't treat anyone that way, whether they're a billionaire or a person just trying to get a room for the night. The next morning, Maya woke to find the story dominating national news. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, everyone was covering it. Her phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. She dressed carefully in a sharp business suit and made her way down to the lobby, where she found a crowd of reporters waiting. Morrison approached her with a nervous expression. Ms. Richardson, they've been here since 5 a.m. I didn't know if you wanted to speak with them or set up a press conference, Maya said decisively. It's time to address this properly. An hour later, Maya stood behind a podium in the hotel's grand ballroom, facing dozens of reporters and cameras. She had chosen her words carefully. Yesterday evening, I experienced firsthand the kind of discrimination that far too many people face every day, she began. I was assaulted and humiliated by an employee of my own company, not because I did anything wrong, but because of the color of my skin and his assumptions about who I was. Reporters scribbled notes furiously as cameras flashed. But here's what I want everyone to understand. I don't want your sympathy because I'm a billionaire who was wronged. I want your attention because this happens to people every day who don't have the resources to fight back. Maya paused, letting her words sink in. Richard Sterling didn't assault me because he didn't recognize me. He assaulted me because he felt entitled to do so. He felt that someone who looked like me didn't deserve basic human respect. That mindset is what we need to address. A reporter raised her hand. Ms. Richardson, what changes are you implementing in your hotels to prevent this from happening again? Excellent question, Maya replied. Effective immediately, all Richardson Hospitality Group properties will implement comprehensive anti-discrimination policies with real consequences. We're partnering with civil rights organizations to develop training programs that go beyond simple sensitivity courses. And we're creating a fund to support legal action for anyone who faces discrimination at our properties. Another reporter called out, what about Mr. Sterling? Are you pressing charges? Maya's expression grew stern. Mr. Sterling is facing assault charges, and my company is pursuing civil action as well. But more importantly, his actions have consequences that extend far beyond legal proceedings. His behavior was captured on video and has been seen by millions of people. That's a consequence he'll live with forever. The questions continued for another 30 minutes, but Maya handled each one with grace and authority. When it was over, she felt a sense of purpose that had been missing from her business dealings for months. Over the following weeks, the story continued to generate discussion about discrimination in the hospitality industry. Maya used the attention to launch a nationwide initiative called Dignity for All, which provided resources for victims of discrimination and trained hospitality workers in inclusive service practices. Richard Sterling never found another job in hospitality. The video of his assault had made him unemployable in the industry. He was convicted of assault and sentenced to community service and anger management classes. Jennifer, the receptionist, also struggled to find work after the incident went viral, but for Maya, the real victory came 6 months later when she received a letter from a young black woman named Sarah who had stayed at one of her hotels in Atlanta. Dear Ms. Richardson, the letter read, I wanted to thank you for what you did. Last month, I stayed at your hotel in Atlanta, and I was nervous because I'd seen so many stories about people like me being treated badly at nice hotels. But your staff was incredible. They made me feel welcome and valued from the moment I walked in. I know that's because of the changes you made after what happened to you. You didn't just stand up for yourself, you stood up for all of us. Maya kept that letter on her desk, a reminder that sometimes the most important battles are fought not in boardrooms or courtrooms, but in the everyday interactions that define who we are as human beings. The Grand Imperial Hotel, under Morrison's management, became one of the company's most successful properties. More importantly, it became a model for inclusive hospitality that other hotels across the industry began to emulate. Maya never returned to that hotel incognito again. But she didn't need to. The real change had already taken place, not just in her hotels, but in the broader conversation about dignity, respect, and the simple truth that every person deserves to be treated with humanity, regardless of who they are or what they look like. And sometimes, Maya reflected, it takes a moment of injustice to create a lasting legacy of justice. The slap that was meant to put her in her place had instead put the entire hospitality industry on notice. Discrimination has no place in a civilized society, and there are always consequences for those who forget that fundamental truth.